All right,
Now, put yourself on mute.
Let's use some headphones. Okay. Are we live?
you are.
Okay. Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to the monthly meeting for the Cleveland Community Police Commission Investigations, Discipline, and Accountability Committee. This is Tuesday, March 12th, and we thank you for joining us in person and also online. I'm Terry Wong. I'm the chair of this committee. Just want to do a welcome to everybody and a roll call. Commissioner Chura.
Present.
Commissioner Garrett Ferguson. Present. And I'm present as the chair. And also we have our co-chairs, Commissioner Zayed and Dr. Adams. Thank you so much. I just want to go over the agenda. Is there anything that we see on it that we would like to change or have questions about? No? Okay.
Could I make a suggestion?
Mhm.
I suggest that you move Ms. Johnson's case up, the discussion up to the top of the agenda.
It is. I'm just going to give a small update, very, very quick. And she's number 2. So is that okay? Or we can, we could move her up if we want. Is that, you want to move her first? Okay, we can do that.
Okay.
Do we'll move that to the top of old business. Do I just have unanimous consent for that? I would say aye.
Aye.
No nays? Okay, great. And now we're going to open for public comment. We have a few people. If you would like to make public comment, including, we do have a person that has appealed to us, Ms. Dorinda Johnson. Anybody can make public comment at this point. We welcome you to use the microphone.
Are you ready for me to begin?
Yes.
Okay,
If you just,
I think they can see her from here.
okay.
okay, I'm Dorinda Johnson, and I'm here because of the complaint that I filed against the police officer. And the problem that I'm having with the officer is that he failed his duties. He failed to in his in the ticket report, it states that the individual who falsified information and used my name, where the officer inscribed the ticket in my name, did not have driver's license. And also that the vehicle wasn't registered to me. So a big part of that, even if he didn't take fingerprints from the person who claimed to be me, you also had the matter that the vehicle was not registered to me. So there was no driver's license presented. The vehicle was not registered to me. So there was nothing there to identify me as the person who the ticket was written against. And then, so his failure in duties is 4.01, 4.03, 4.06, and 4.11, and 4.18. 4.1 is a protection and to prevent crime and to arrest. 4.03 is a full attention to the performance of his duties. 4.06 is to handle the investigation task. 4.11 is to act immediately in instances that comes to his attention. And 4.18 is to investigate suspected crime. So in his failure to complete those duties, it just left a continuum of harm against me. And also it ended up causing him to once on the case ended up going to trial with this last ticket that we're addressing here today. It was dismissed on 11/7/02, and with that dismissal, the officer still failed to report confidential information. So under 9.01, he didn't report in writing to anyone. And under 9.02, he had knowledge of suspicion and still didn't report in writing. So I feel that the officer should be disciplined because there was nothing to point towards me or to identify me as the person, and he didn't take fingerprints or anything like that.
And which particular officer do you mean, Ms. Johnson?
Sedgwick.
Sedgwick.
Sedgwick. I'm not sure exactly how his name is. So I think it's Sedgwick.
Okay, thank you. Do you have anything else that you would like to say?
No, not at this time. It's just that the problem is that because that failure to reporting confidential information, and I just was never guided on how to stop any conflicts of interest or to stop any harm to me. It's just that I've had a lot of suffering from the entire right, and also the fact that police reports made, they use that as a part of identifying you. So this these fraudulent tickets and this one that we're addressing here today has been an identity for me. So I would like to get everything considered and forwarded.
Thank you. So we will, if there's no other public comments, we'll move into assessing what we know about Ms. Johnson's case. Is there any other public comment? Lou, do you have a comment?
Not at this time.
Okay. We're okay? All right, so now we'll just move into the assessment of this case. Mr. Goodrich, do you want to give an outline here? I actually have it. Here. All right. Mr. Goodrich, do you want to give a brief outline of just a timeline of this case and maybe, so to give a little bit of background, one of the primary responsibilities of the commission is to hear cases on police discipline. We are the final authority on discipline, and our ability is to increase discipline. And only in the instance of retaliation against a police officer are we allowed to decrease discipline. So this is, I just want to read, if it could be helpful for so it says in Charter 115, the Community Police Commission, at its discretion, has the authority to make the final decision for, this is 114, for the city about whether to impose officer discipline where it was not imposed or to increase discipline when the commission views it insufficient. The chief, executive head of the police force, and the board must notify complainants of their right to seek ultimate review by that commission, meaning us. So we thank Ms. Johnson for entrusting us with this case, and just for the public to know, there are many avenues. If you have a case to be seen by the commission that you feel should be seen, that you can appeal directly to us. You can appeal at a meeting. You can appeal, any member can. You don't have to be the person that was the victim of an alleged act. And so this is, and we thank you for your patience as we go into uncharted waters, but this represents a very important step for us because this is one of our core responsibilities. Okay, so I'm trying to find what I was going to read in 115, but hold on for a minute. Why does it keep coming back to? Okay, so here it is. The commission will respond to community needs and concerns regarding regulation of the city's police force and community police relations through duties, including but not limited to the following. And this is the number one responsibility: serving as the final city authority on whether the discipline of officers imposed or not imposed by the chief of police, executive head of the police force, or civilian police review board is sufficient, with the discretionary authority with due process afforded to a subject officer, to order that the chief and executive head of the police force increase discipline, and to order that they impose discipline where none was imposed. The commission may, at its discretion and upon notice, hold evidentiary hearings to review individual officer discipline following any proceeding and decisions by the chief of police, executive head of the police force, and as applicable, the civilian police review board. Any order by the commission to increase and impose discipline will be final, and the chief and executive head of the police force must follow it. Okay, so that is just the relevant section, so we all know what we're where we are. Mr. Goodrick, could you provide a brief timeline of and maybe walk us so the other people that are listening can understand how Ms. Johnson's case and appeal came to the commission?
Okay, to the chair. This case was received by the CPC December 26, 2023. The complainant, Ms. Johnson, who you had just heard speak, delivered it directly to us. And in the initial complaint, which is part in the file that you all received, she referenced an OPS investigation, 2019-0141, and other incidents dating back all the way to 1999, which would be OPS case 1220-1999. They didn't have record numbers back then in the copy of the file we got. And it also covers OPS 2019-0141. Status of that investigation: it was closed. The complaint was filed August 19th of 2019, and the CPRB adjudicated on August 11th, 2020. And that particular case was against one officer, Officer Lutherati, number 1753, and the finding was no discipline administered. So it touches two cases on record and involves, as Ms. Johnson has mentioned, receipt of tickets and incidents with police in 1999 and 2002. And when she attempted to follow up in 2019, that is what the most recent OPS case, which had full records and was during the time under the consent decree, was adjudicated. So that is the timeline. You have another question?
Yeah, thank you so much. Does that follow with your, Ms. Johnson, your recollection of the events?
Yes, it does.
Thank you. So, and now, since this is uncharted territory, where would we like to begin? Would we like to look at, has everybody gotten a chance to look at all the records? Are there any questions? We want to go through them one by one.
To the chair, I don't think it's necessary for us to go through them one by one. I think we can all go around and give our initial assessment and opinion after, since we have already looked at all of the files before now, and then we can have a conversation about how should we move forward. But I don't think we need to revisit every single thing on the record for this case.
Ms. Johnson, I saw you raise your hand.
I received a copy of the file today. However, the one ticket that I'm certain of, with Officer Sedgwick, I believe his name is pronounced. However, with the second ticket, it appears more as if that may be my signature, and I think that that's what you were bringing up, Rudy. You can't see it in its entirety. However, that possibly may be a legitimate ticket. I'm not certain because I really can't see my signature, but from what I can see, I'm not certain of that ticket, but I am certain with the other ticket.
So I think one of the questions we have, if I may speak, is that and please correct me if I'm wrong, 2019 complaint was that you went into to a station to file a complaint that's against Officer Roddy. Are you now attempting to make another complaint against Officer Sedlak, or what is, maybe if we can understand your goal for being
The
here?
file has 2 tickets in it.
Mhm.
So I believe that what OPS may have sent over to you is a ticket from 1999, which I was getting fraudulent tickets during that period of time. However, the ticket there is a vehicle in which I own. And I've never had to report it stolen or anything like that. Now, the other ticket, because they have a copy of 2 different tickets there actually. The other ticket is definitely not my signature and is not a vehicle that I own.
So this is the ticket that is marked on the left. It's ticket 497866.
That is a fraudulent ticket.
That is a fraudulent ticket. So I see Miss Officer Sedlak's signature is at the bottom. Of
That
the
is
ticket.
correct.
Okay. And this was from, what date was this? This was May 18th, 2002. Yes, okay. So, so did you present this ticket to Mr. Roddy when you,
One part of the problem is that because the fraudulent tickets were being written in my name, I never was actually receiving many of the tickets. Somehow, I guess after several complaints to OPS, somehow I ended up with a copy of that ticket and was able to present it to OPS. So in the past, although the tickets had been occurring since the 90s, I wasn't able to have access to the tickets or any of that information. So what would happen is they would ticket me, and I would have no knowledge that they would they had even ticketed me. So I wouldn't have an actual copy to present to anyone. So that's why it took such a long period of time to kind of work through getting here today.
I see, thank you. So I do want to make it clear that we are just asking fact-finding questions here so we can do our assessment. We're not, because it would be unfair to the officer because they are not here. But we do appreciate you answering our questions on facts. So, Mr. Chura, do you have any questions if we go around? Is there?
Are you complaining that Officer Sedlak did not take any fingerprints when he wrote the ticket?
I'm complaining that Officer Sedlak did not take any fingerprints. He did not acknowledge that the vehicle did not belong to me. And he also acknowledged that there was no driver's license presented to him at that time.
Okay. If there was no driver's license, there should have been a thumbprint on the ticket. Whoever was driving that vehicle, he should have taken a thumbprint from and put it on the back of the ticket.
Well, that's part of my complaint when I say he fills his duties under, I think, 4.01. I named off about 6 or 7.
Now, when you went to court, was this case dismissed?
The case ended up getting dismissed.
And how did they go about dismissing that case?
Well, what happened was they brought in an officer. I'm not sure who he was because I kind of was left in the background.
Did they take a fingerprint from you?
I don't think they did, but it's possible.
Because if there was a fingerprint on the ticket like there was supposed to be, and they took your fingerprint and it didn't match that one, then they would have dismissed the case.
I don't recall them taking a fingerprint at all.
But did they dismiss the case?
Yes, they did.
I think it says here in, if I may, this is the final investigative report of Mr. Bowker from OPS. She, meaning Ms. Johnson, indicated that Cleveland Police, at the request of the court in 2002, investigated her claim of someone using her identifiers. The officer who issued the ticket was directed by the court in 2002 to take her fingerprints and compare them with those on the ticket. This resulted in her release and the case being dismissed. Is that
However, with the ticket that we're viewing today, I don't see where there was any fingerprints, so I just don't recall that part of it.
so? Would it be so? Would not be visible on this?
Usually it would be on the back of the citation. They wouldn't have dismissed the case unless there was actually, and it's quite common, I don't know who's using your ID, but we have brothers who use another brother's ID. So that's how they would determine if they go to court, that, it's not actually the person that was driving the car, that's someone giving false information.
Are
It's
you
even
saying
better,
then that they should have, every time that happened, they probably should have taken fingerprints whenever there was a driver's license?
so if there's no driver's license on a person, yes, they should have taken a fingerprint. Correct.
And if then the vehicle did belong to the person as well, should they maybe did an additional investigation?
At that time, I don't know if they'd be able to do too much on it. Nowadays, they have, the computers are a lot better than they used to be. So you could actually pull somebody's driver's license photo up. So if it happened today, and they said they were a different person, they could pull up and look at, they could look at the owner of the car. If they have enough information, they could look at the person that's alleging to be you. If they pull your picture up and it doesn't match the person they have in front of them, they know that person's should probably be arrested for not having a driver's license.
But don't you think that it's his responsibility to have some type of confirmation on the identity of the person whom he's writing the ticket for? So if the vehicle didn't have my name and there wasn't any driver's license presented in my name, then I'm just saying that he didn't do his due diligence or his duties to ensure that he was writing a ticket to the proper person.
Well, I would say a lot of people don't if they forget their driver's license, whatever the situation might be. So he took whoever had the car at the face at their word, but he did take a fingerprint just in case, and that exonerated you. So I think he did what he was supposed to do at that time and with the technology that they had.
Well, yeah, but the vehicle, because I think that he still could have towed the vehicle, and did further investigation. So I just think that he failed to do any further investigation when he didn't have any identifiers as to who this person was.
It's a possibility, but he has discretion also on what he was going to do with the situation. So
But what ended up happening is the ticket still ended up in my name, and then I ended up having to experience a hardship due to that, whereas he had the ability to make a move on it at that particular time because there was no identifiers to point to me.
I understand that, but the whole thing is he's not the one that was using your identification. Do you have any idea who it might be? Is there a sister or a friend?
Well, it's included in the complaint report because I have written several complaints to OPS, and they end up eventually asking me who I thought it might be, and I did release that information to them. So it is part of the file as to who, based on the signature that I see. It's not my writing, so based on the signature, I just kind of took a wild guess because, like I said, I wasn't present. So, but the problem is that the seriousness of police then taking that record and identifying you and attaching you to that type of record is a horrible place for someone to be put in. So I think that I just think that the officer really failed his duties. And then even after the matter was dismissed, he didn't follow through in writing to get everything cleared up. So I don't see any steps that he took at any time to protect me.
Okay, I don't know of any situation where an officer would have done anything further at that point.
Well, he didn't protect or serve me at all, even after the matter was dismissed, with, as you said, based on the fingerprint dismissal. He didn't take any steps to protect or service me at all.
And you filed no formal complaint on Officer Sedlak at that time.
Well, once the matter was dismissed, I didn't have any documents or any paperwork provided to me, and I wasn't directed to do anything further. It was just that you're welcome to leave.
Okay.
Kara Ferguson.
Ms. Johnson, have you sought help with getting this expunged from your record?
I really don't, never believed in, expungements. So I never have, sought to do anything, in that area at all, no.
Because I think based on the fact that this has already gone to court and those tickets have been dismissed, I understand you have a concern about someone still being able to look up the docket and those types of things to still find your identity, correct?
Well, yes, but I think that, with fraud, people kind of know when to do something and when not to do something. So I think what ended up happening for me, what ended up happening was that, I ended up getting more personal, direct damage. So, I became a vulnerable person, and it just led to, a relative being able to do more personal direct damage to me. So I've been constantly experiencing that, due to, officers' failure to protect and serve.
It seems that based on what has already been filed, and I know you say you don't believe in expungement, but it seems like that would be one of the best ways for you to be protected in the future. Because if they can expunge it completely, and then you can work with an attorney, maybe a legal aid, you can tell them that you've been a victim of identity fraud, and they can walk you through the steps of having your information removed from public records. So for example, voting address. If you're a registered voter in the state of Ohio, your address is public record. But there are those who are victims of domestic violence or other type of violence where they're able to actually go and get help from a lawyer where they will make sure that their name, their address does not come up on public voting rolls.
I understand that, but I think that what you're missing is the fact that the officer was providing some type of identity from me. So more than likely, it was, my social security number and date of birth. So even with an expungement, I'm still in a vulnerable situation. So when I say that I've experienced more personal attacks from it, it's because, it's likely that the social security number and or the date of birth was provided to the officer. But like I said, so he has a name, some information to, put a name on the ticket, but he doesn't have the driver's license, which is part of the state law requirement. He doesn't have a license plate, which is part of the state law requirement to identify people. So he just went and accepted word of mouth, and, an expungement still wouldn't, because we're just able to address this ticket. It's kind of like good, bad situation, but, because I'm able to address it. But, the problem still remains with all the previous tickets. So even if I look towards expungement with this particular ticket, then we still have the issue of all the other tickets that was in my name, which is part of my record, which will still continue to cause harm for me.
So I guess my question is, have you spoken to an attorney or anyone that could possibly help you? Because there are attorneys and there's different resources they have for folks who are victims of identity theft.
I haven't had any resources to present to them to have them make a stance on my behalf.
Okay, because I think maybe there's a way that we can look up some of those resources and get those resources for you. Because unfortunately, to Commissioner Chura's point, technology back then is what it was, and I don't know what more the police force can do to remedy the situation as far as on their end, just because of just the date that these things took place. But we do know now in 2024 that there's a lot of resources to help people with identity theft who've been victims of it, to help them restore things like their credit, their name. There's resources out there. And I think one of us, I wouldn't mind helping you look for some of those resources, whether it's through like a legal aid or another entity. And I think an attorney and them, they can really help you with getting the protection in your life back.
Well, the problem is with that is that the police force has already deemed me as a problem person. So when you mentioned that it's more harmful because it's went on all of this time. And that's why I'm saying when it was brought to their attention and they made that dismissal, action should have been taken at that time. Even if it was the officer to take steps to contact his supervisor to ask what can he do on my behalf, and they never did that. And what has happened is now the whole police force looks at me in a negative way. So we've had too many years of this experience for them to just be able to sit there and erase it and feel that now all of these decades of their judgment is just wrong.
Ms. Johnson, I would like also Mr. Belights, our staff attorney, to comment. Martin, can you tell us when, I guess the issue for you is that you felt, if I may portray it, please let me know if it's not accurate, is that this ticket was issued to somebody else under your identifiers, and you feel that the court should not just merely dismiss it, but also just, as you said, expunge it from the record, because we do know when a police officer stops you, they can look at your entire kind of record.
And furthermore, the person whom I suspect to have done the ticket, they lived next to a police officer for years. So that's my current predicament as well. So they formed a relationship because they're actually literally right next door to one another. So that's what I'm saying. It's been too long and they've already it would be challenging for them to accept the fact that they've judged me wrong for decades. And plus, they've got the support of the person who has committed this fraudulent act, well, it appears who have committed this fraudulent act, because like you said, they're not here, has an officer friend that's been a friend for them with them for decades.
So, if I may, so could you explain what happened in 2011? It says that there was, 2002 was when the fraudulent ticket was written. That was dismissed by the court. And then, what happened? You mentioned specific instances. Could you be more specific of how you feel that this has negatively impacted your life specifically, and maybe explain what happened in 2011?
Well, because someone was comfortable with presenting fraud against another human being and using a police force who has weapons to protect us, it's just been kind of like an ongoing thing against me where I've constantly kind of experienced bullying, and then it just ended up leading to the bullying from that individual using my name and causing me harm, that the police started developing a record against me, which created additional bullying against me as well.
Can you, are there instances of bullying or descriptions of that you can provide us?
Well, there's just been a lot of suffering because fraudulent paperwork, it's hard to prove. It's hard for me to do anything because it kind of places me in a loner situation. So once the judge dismissed the case, I just needed all the help that I could get from that officer, and it wasn't provided to me. And it ended up leaving me in an isolated situation, and things like my mother passing, I believe fraudulent paperwork was produced through that. So, and here more recently, I've had, so it's just been, once I had my child, then it's been a type of internet bullying and control over that. So it's just kind of impacted my whole life and made itself inside my home. And because of the vulnerability that it left me with, it just created the ease of accusing me of something um, and everyone supporting, for the judiciary system to support that because it created a record for me. So the fact that I had no criminal record, was not doing anything wrong, and still really don't. The only thing that I really have that's always been a problem and that continues to confront me is the judiciary. So I've had to spend pretty much all of my last 20, 30 years with the uh, uh, addressing judiciary stuff. So it's kind of like it's just been unfair and unreasonable to me, and I just couldn't see where an officer would have been comfortable um, with just leaving it there after I constantly complaining, even with the matter being brought to OPS, then it had to be brought to their attention again, and still no steps was taken in my behalf or to and the dismissal was already there. So the dismissal happened in 2012, and by 2019 we go back to OPS, and they still don't take any steps to protect and serve me.
Thank you, and I'm very sorry that it seems to have left you extraordinarily vulnerable and not feeling safe about these and not knowing what could be on the horizon. So I think
And it's extremely harmful in some aspects because I don't believe in having a gun or owning a gun, and then I'm constantly faced with guns. I'm constantly faced with violence. I don't believe in fighting and things like that. I mean, I think that some of that have to take place, but I'm real protective about life. So it's been extremely hurtful and harmful and suffering for me.
I think I can speak for everybody that we're very sorry for you that you had to go through that. If we can direct you to things, what are the things that I know that it's hard to become whole after all of this, but are there discrete things that the commission can help you with? One is to, if Martin can speak about it, if the ticket was issued and she was not the person in the car, is a dismissal the only thing that's possible in the court, or should they just wipe the record completely? Do you have any? I know you're not a criminal lawyer, but
yeah, that's kind of outside the scope of what I'm here to do. Here to give you guys a legal advice on this matter. So not really her attorney, your guys' attorney. So let's refocus that.
okay.
To the chair, there are resources and there are expungement clinics, and we can point her to those and some other attorneys and like legal aid. That way they can help walk her through the process of what an expungement does. That's kind of out of the scope of like our expertise right now. So I think maybe the best course of action is if we compile resources that we know that will be able to help her. And because you're correct, nothing can make her whole after something like this has taken place. But I think from speaking also like hearing from Commissioner Jura, who's been an officer, those time lapses, technology and other things just didn't exist back then. And so it seems that the best thing to do would be to help her get the resources that she needs to then help move this situation forward.
However, I have a current situation problem also. Around about October the 29th, police officers entered my home, and I reported my daughter missing, and I asked that they search the home. They did not search the home. I had been working since I was ostracized from employment because of this. So, I was ostracized from the post office position. I had taken the test, and then they ended up running up on me down inside the Justice Center. And the officer said that I assaulted him. So I ended up not being able to get the postal position. I didn't serve any time in jail for it, but I ended up, again, I was vulnerable because of the history of these tickets, so I wasn't able to get employed. So here recently with, on October 29th of 23, I reported my daughter missing. They didn't search the home. They refused to, they just didn't do it. And, so now my daughter is with the person whom I said had committed this offense, and I had taken that person to court, and they said, "Well, you'll never see your daughter again." So I'm under those type of situations now, and also the fact that since I was ostracized from employment, I ended up developing intellectual property. So I have like I have now intellectual property. So once my daughter came up missing, then I had to race to the patent office to, so I was forced into filing provisional patents because I'm really not financially prepared for that. And now I'm on the time frame with those patents. And my daughter was going to school, so now she's not going to school, but she did get the computer, which would allow me to work the patents from home with the Apple computer that she had. So now she's out there, and I'm constantly back and forth in court with that situation. And I've also lost some other valuables from my home with that police entry there. So it's just a constant harm to me whenever there's any contact with the police. You know, I'm always um, uh, suffering from some, suffering from a loss. So it's been extremely monetary as well.
To the chair, just a point, that was not in the scope of the complaint. This is the first time that issue came up, that there's anything happened in 2023. So my counsel to the committee would be to recommend that she file an OPS complaint pursuant to that particular instance on October 29th, so that it can go through a proper investigation.
So this happened in October.
Correct.
So I would, and we could I would volunteer, help you go to OPS and file. I think, it is a process, but I hope that will help you get something on record that of your story. Is there anything else other than dealing with these two officers that you hope the commission can help you, guide you with? We can send you to resources for the expungement. I think sometimes, as I said, maybe discrete steps can ease the burden little by little. I'm hoping that incrementally you can feel less vulnerable and more safe. If it was, I don't know if I think these two officers are still current officers. If we
wouldn't be able to verify that just because someone has the same name on roster,
No, I had that number.
the badge
I
number.
had the badge number.
So we know P.O. Roddy is, but SEDLAC was not in the scope of this complaint. So OPS looked at those tickets when the case was brought against Officer Roddy in 2019, and they determined that the Cleveland Division of Police investigated those tickets properly because the court had ordered them to. Why there weren't criminal charges pursued against who put the false fingerprint, nobody has an answer to that question. It's unfortunate, but everything was found to be done the way that it was supposed to. So the fingerprinting, as Mr. Chura had mentioned, is a standard practice. It's actually, if I recall from when I was a police officer, it's actually an Ohio a law where you have to do that. So if they don't have an ID, you have to fingerprint the ticket to validate the ticket. So that was all done within the scope. OPS covered each of those incidents. They even looked at the 1999 complaint and found that each time there was an investigation conducted properly under CDP. So that SEDLAC is incorporated in OPS's complaint, although he wasn't specifically mentioned. They did look at the 2002 situation and the 1999 situation and determined that it was investigated.
Um,
So,
Well, nonetheless, with the incident that had occurred, I ended up, like I said, following through with court. So when the person whom I think has been using my name for years appeared in court, they did say you'll never see your child again. So I did make a report to the police department of that. And they told me they gave me provided me with some information to contact the prosecutor's office. So I called the prosecutor's office and left them with that information. However, it's been about 30 days and I haven't heard anything further from the prosecutor's office.
Just a follow-up, Ms. Johnson, is your daughter a minor or an adult?
Well, that's what they keep saying to me is that she's 18 years of age. However, I had an incident that occurred when she was 17 years old. It was like a month before she comes 18. They came out to the home. They held me in jail for about 3 days and they took her to another jurisdiction. So I had told OPS that I wanted to file a complaint because I don't think that they should have, if they were doing an investigation while they were holding me in jail for 3 days, then they should have kept her here within the city as part of their investigation. Why would you take her to another city if you're investigating? No charges was filed, and after 3 days, they had taken my keys. I asked to get my keys before they took me to jail. They refused to let me get my keys, so my door was left open for that 3-day period. And then after that, that was around February the 23rd, and then the next incident happened on around October 29th.
So my question is for that particular incident, have you been able to seek any legal counsel for help with that?
No, I did try and reach out to legal aid, but they haven't returned any calls to me.
And you reached out to them about the case with your daughter?
Well, I haven't had a lot of stance with that because, like you said, the first thing that came out your mouth, which is the first thing that comes out their mouth, and it's funny that I didn't have any instances until she becomes 18, but well, except the one when she was a month before 18. So basically, whenever I reach out to any agency or entity, that's what they're saying at this point is that she's 18. But I'm not able to provide anything for her. I'm not able to talk to her. I'm not able to see her because, like I said, it's a bullying thing from the fraudulent tickets that's led to this, to that, to this, to that. So it's been a constant abuse from that.
And do you know where your daughter is?
Actually, I have an address for her location, but it took 3 to 7 days before I even was able to find out that, and I ended up losing my phone too. And after about 3 or 7 days, the police ended up telling me where she was, and then they kept saying that she's 18 at this point, and there's nothing you can do. But whenever I go out there, I never am able to see her. So my siblings not opening the door or responding to me at all. So she's preventing any type of contact from me with the child. But my daughter always did homeschool with me. So she's always been there with me. So it's been one thing I did on Sunday. It's kind of like I got a call and it sounds like two females were arguing in the background and one sounded like my daughter, and I had the answering machine on and I kept trying to talk to her, and they just weren't responding. So I kind of got that recording. So it's constantly trauma and terror that I'm experiencing.
So is your daughter with one of your siblings?
I can't trust to say that my sibling is actually, that was what the report that the police gave to me.
But yeah, and that was the address of one of your siblings?
Correct.
Have you gone to domestic relations court?
I currently filed, no, I haven't been to domestic relations court.
There may be a way for, and I don't know when the last time you contacted legal aid, but I think that there's a way that they can even help you through the process because it sounds like it's not a police issue, it's a court issue and a domestic issue. And so the court also has victim services. They have different folks there that can also
Well,
help
that's
you
what I'm
with those
saying.
things.
That's what I'm saying here, that, I'm constantly, having my name kind of drugged through this process. And, it wears on you because if you're hearing me, this has been going on since the 90s. So now they drag the kid into it. So I'm just saying that that's totally unfair. And I do understand what you're saying. It's a process, and we're gonna have to go through some. I'm gonna have to go through some type of process. But I don't want the objective to get twisted and turned because of police activity. So much police activity in my life. I mean, I don't have a record of. It's so many crimes that you could commit. So many crimes that you could commit. The only reason why I have a violent crime is because when I was in the Justice Center, the officer approached me from behind. So when he approached me from behind and he actually did the first touching of me, and it just kind of there, and he never complained of any injuries. So it's been a constant drudgery me into different legalities. And like I said, my sister has a neighbor who's a police officer. So when I go out there to try and talk with her, she can be as foul and as stone cold as she wants to be because it's another police city, and she has a police officer friend because I've seen him. She was supposedly bought the dance hall or whatever, but she's got a hall out there, and he was her neighbor was the officer who supervised her parties out there. So they've got a real close connection and ties. So either ways, I'm always being thrust at, the police officers always, it's always there, and the guns and weapons are always there. So it's just created an extreme hardship, whereas now they're making the child suffer. So my main objective now is that I kind of tolerated a lot of it, and like I said, I was going on to do the patents, and that's supposed to be the child's business. And I think that they probably took her computer from her and everything. So I think that my whole objective now is to stop any type of harm that may be going on for her. So I had planned. I found out today that I was going to be down here, but I had bought a lot of groceries to take out there to her, and her birthday's coming up, so I had bought her flowers and some few gifts. So since I did file a complaint with that city court, then I was kind of comfortable with taking those things out there to the police department to try and see to it that I would have a witness at that point because I've got a court case coming on with them, and so that's kind of where things are. But my whole objective is just to ensure that she's not doing any suffering. Now she's been with me for all these years, and there's never been any domestic issues until she's about 18, where she can be exploited, and no one can really step in too much. So that's where I'm at with just trying to get as much protection for her as possible, because if they felt that I was any type of threat or harm, then we should have had a history of that, which is the same thing I'm saying that happened with these tickets. There's no history of it. The same thing with these officers. There was no history of me, so it made it real easy for, I guess, for her to use my name, and they say let you go or whatever. But what I'm saying is that he should have taken those identifiers where there was none, and took some steps to secure protecting my clean name and reputation and character. And I'm constantly being damaged and beat down from that. Now my sibling has had her record expunged. So and a lot of times when your record is expunged, the only place you can see it is like up at the state or the federal level. So if you're sitting there with with her sitting there with an expunged record, then it's easy for her to still manipulate and do the things that she's done. But then at the same time, it took two of them in order for my clean record to become destroyed. I mean, we want to say the officer is innocent, but it couldn't have been done with just one person alone. And who does she choose? And what does he carry? And how is he looked upon as the community? So these are things that's been taken from me, whether it was intentional or not. There were steps that he could have taken to ensure at any point, even after the dismissal. So I could see even if you wanted to make a stance on his behalf, but not after the dismissal, then he had the chiefs, and we're talking 2012, where they kept asking for cameras and all these other things, but you're not using the tools that you had at the time. So that car could have been towed. Oh, this isn't in her name. Oh, I don't have a driver's license. Oh, it's going to take a few days before these fingerprints, I can say what it is, or can I check it right now? So there was nothing there, there was nothing there to point at me yet, and still he didn't take any steps. Then they say, oh yeah, well, we need some more taxpayer money for these cameras. Or yeah, we need some more taxpayer money for this. Well, where are you showing me that you're using the resources that you have now to its fullest ability to make sure that you're protecting and serving? And there's supervision that he could turn to if there's any question.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. So what I hear, and I'm again very sorry for everything that you're going through and gone through. I think, to me, if other people can provide, the best thing to do is to, if you have a recent complaint with that you can bring to OPS, we would be happy to, I will help you walk through that process, and we will follow your process, because it does sound like you've had some trouble navigating through, and nothing against you. It's just a very difficult and complex system. I also hear that perhaps you would like more holistic help for you, because I think what happens is you get sent from one person to another, and if we can have somebody maybe put together a plan for you that's holistic, that addresses all the needs, and it maps it out and works with you, would that be helpful to you?
That sounds perfect, because when you kind of target it, it just does. You actually are kind of, or even if I just feel targeted, I'm still experiencing a whole lot of things that I hadn't placed the trajectory of my life in, or that I have plans for. And like I said, I've got the pressure to now work with my intellectual property on my own, and that's quite a challenge, because that's kind of like all legal stuff there. So I kind of got to put on a legal hat and kind of do drawings. I've got to be able to present that, and there's probably going to be some office action sent back to me. I'm limited on resources to be able to hire an attorney or get the type of support that I need, but that was going to be the straw that broke the camel's back. So once I was able to go ahead and move with my intellectual property, it separated me from the officers. So now I'm in a whole, I would have been starting my own business, and it was just separated us. So I didn't even have, and she was in school. So now, since she's been with my sister, she's no longer in school, and I had her in an 8-month certification program. So it only was going to take till she finished school, and then I was moving on into owning my own business, would push me in another status and level, which kind of made the hands off for all the parties that I'm here complaining about today. So I couldn't even get the decency to pull myself up by the bootstraps, leave all that behind, and go on with the rest of my life.
I understand. Thank you. I think we also commiserate and can understand that we've been through parts of our lives like this. So if that would be helpful to you, we're happy to put together. We have a few even commissioners who work in the social work area, and who may a lot of resources. We have attorneys that could probably direct you a little bit better through these systems. So if that would be, if you would like our help in this way, we would like to offer it as a commission.
I would love to stay on top of that as soon as possible.
Thank you. So we will, are there any other questions? Are there, from the other commissioners or the co-chairs? Do we have any ideas about next steps with regards to what the committee will be doing? If there's any discussion about that with regards to this particular, appeal?
I assume we would write up our own assessment and our own plan moving forward in regards to this case and the resources that we are providing for Ms. Johnson.
Did we want to make, but that is outside of this appeal, did we want to make a determination on the next steps of this particular appeal?
Oh, yeah, we can call a vote
Right.
for that.
If that, and we will make the, we will take the other steps. You have our word on that. But if people are comfortable, if not, we can marinate on this a little bit, but whatever is the committee would like to do. Any have any input?
Yeah, I'm not on the committee, but I think it'd be best to just move forward with the determination tonight. And there is no doubt that there were some failures in the system in regards to how this was handled with Ms. Johnson. But I think that as I had the same concerns you had and same thoughts that you had, that moving forward at this point, the best step would be to just connect her with the advocacy and guidance that she needed back then that you didn't receive, connect you with that now. So all of those residual effects that you have, your life is that you're experiencing from that incident, that you can get that help and move forward with everything. So I think making a determination tonight, because it looks like there were some system failures, but it wasn't necessarily directed to like the steps the officers made, because the officers followed, it looks based on the report that they followed the policies that were in place at that time, which, you know, there may have been some issues then, but that's neither here nor there. But, you know, so I think that just moving forward with this.
I don't understand why you say that they did what they could at that time, because you speak in such a way as if they weren't, they didn't have any resources. So I really don't understand that. And then I just don't understand the continuum of it. Although we don't have all those matters here before us, I don't understand the continuum of it. And I don't understand, because what happened was, when it initially happened, I went to OPS. So when I went to OPS, and what I'm saying is I was regularly and continually reporting it. And I'm saying that's a little bit more than failure. It looks a little bit more like neglect, and almost a conflict of interest to some degree, because of my constant reporting it. And even now with OPS, you only went back for the records for 1999. And I'm not sure that all of that actually was provided. And then the fact that I wouldn't have been able, when I couldn't do anything, because, so that's where that conflict of interest comes in. And I wouldn't and I couldn't do anything because I never received tickets. The tickets weren't being handed to me. So when you say that, what I'm thinking is they knew what their circumstances was. So if you're and like you said, if that was happening to other people, then I just don't see why it had to happen to me so many times. And what you're saying that they may have been lacking at that time that they have now, that would be different.
I guess based on what I took from all of this, as stated by Commissioner Chura, that there's technology in place now that was not in place back then.
Such as?
I guess the cameras, or not the cameras, but the
Computers.
the computers in the cars, that they could pull up your actual driver's license and things like that.
To the chair, just a point. So if you're looking for process, what Martin and I are trying to establish here is when you have a discussion about an assessment, the next step is to make a motion, which will go up to the full commission, either to have a hearing or to not have a hearing, and they will then confirm that at the full commission. So to close this out this evening would be, and it is related to the lanes that are here. So This was particularly, the named officer was P.O. Roddy in relation to the 2019 OPS complaint, which we have not heard from testimony this evening, any new information about P.O. Roddy or that experience in 2019.
I would like to make a motion.
The ticket provided with P.O. Body, it doesn't even show my signature completely. So
So-
what's included in the file doesn't kind of give
Miss,
either of us.
Johnson, you have my assurance that we will follow up with the things that are holistically outside of this particular. But I think that from the information that we have, we can only assess what is here. But I think there's a lot of resources. If you would like me to look into what the Cleveland Police do regarding identity fraud, if you have even personal experiences that would help you better be able to deal with this.
I don't think that I'm going to have to deal so much with the police writing tickets in my name. I think that, that went on for like a couple of decades and it's pretty much over with. Like I said, that just opened the avenue for the abuse and the other financial gains from me. So now I'm kind of dealing with the issue of, like you said, with the keys being taken, and now I got my intellectual property, and so it's just that constant taking, and the police are present is the ongoing, what has been a continuum. So it just opened the door for this ongoing taking. So,
So I hear you, and what I think all of us are offering is that if we can provide you resources to help you get a better sense of control and maybe not total control because it's hard to get, but safety in your life. If you would like to file that OPS complaint for 2023, we can guide you through that, and we're happy. I think we can follow this as a committee to make it easier for you, to make sure that's going properly through the process. If that is okay.
Yeah, just, does anybody else have any more questions for Ms. Johnson? So we can close out the public comment? Okay, thank you.
I'm gonna call for, make a motion.
Okay.
Anybody would like to make a motion? Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
I would like to make a motion to recommend this case, and I'll read the case off, 2023-01, for, I guess it's called dismissal from the full commission.
That we not pursue an evidentiary hearing,
That we not pursue an evidentiary hearing,
but
but we will, the accountability committee will follow up with resources that we can connect Ms. Johnson to. But that's my recommendation, and that we move it to the full commission at our next meeting.
do I have a second for that?
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? Okay, we're ready to take a vote. Commissioner Chura?
On the motion.
Huh?
On the motion?
Yes, on the motion.
Yes, on the motion.
Commissioner Garrett Ferguson?
Aye.
And I vote aye. So the motion will now be that we take our recommendation to the full commission, although that we are not recommending for a full evidentiary hearing. We will recommend for more resources given to you, and we will follow up with you for 2023 instance for an OPS complaint. So we thank you, Ms. Johnson, for coming here and entrusting this with us. I do know, I will say that I myself went through an OPS complaint. It was a very long process, and we're here to support you. We understand that this is the only avenue really that the citizens can give information about their experiences with the police. So I think that you are to be commended.
The whole other problem is I shouldn't have never had it. I didn't create this.
I know.
What you're saying. So I just need to know at this point, Because, how do we go ahead with the OPS complaint?
We will, maybe, I don't know who can go with you. I guess I could go with her, or is that a conflict or anything to OPS? We could do the intake with Mr. Perez. What would be the best path, you think, Martin?
I think, this is a referral function, so, if the executive director wants to handle it, and the staff handle it, this is an official referral. So, yeah, I would say we want to tread a little lightly on a commissioner bringing a complaint directly, so if you could just refer it through the executive director's team, that'd be great.
So, Jason, who you've already spoken with a few times, he will follow up, and we will, make sure that you get to OPS, with the administrator.
Well, the thing is with OPS, and I've never worked in the office, so like she said, with computers, that's how I was kind of taking advantage of a lot, is because I don't have that background. And so, I kind of need a little help with that. Like I was going for the post office position, so I've been more or less a laborer. With the officer side, I've been limited on communications too. So I'm not so good with going through that office administration type of thing as because the other person worked for the city at 18. So the person who committed all these crimes, they were on the computer and all of that, was supposedly the person who I suspect.
Well, I suspect the process.
So I'm not very good.
It's okay. We will, Mr. Goodrick. You can take her to OPS and do
So
this.
OPS has all the resources for complaints. So we will make sure they're connected. We've been doing this since we had a staff here. We've helped people connect with OPS and file complaints. So
will you make sure that Mr. Perez, she is connected with Mr. Perez?
we will make
I
sure.
kind of spilled my guts out, so I was kind of hoping somebody could help me with the making sure everything get inscribed properly for it to get properly reviewed before.
Yeah, we will make sure the other issues with the tickets, we will look at and provide you some services. But I think if you want to make an OPS complaint, then Mr. Goodrick will connect you with Mr. Perez, who is the administrator. He will do the intake for OPS. So he's a new administrator, and I'm sure he'd be happy to take your complaint.
And that will be specifically around what you mentioned happened in 2023. So every incident that happens with the police has to be brought to their attention. So if you're saying that something happened to you related to the police in October of 2023, OPS wouldn't investigate that unless you go there and bring that to their attention. So this is what we're talking about, is helping you resolve that issue, the new complaint with the Cleveland Division of Police that we heard you mention this evening.
Okay, because I had been there before, and when I was addressing a complaint there, I did bring up the fact about if the investigation was going on in one city, why would you take it to another? And I'm being held, so they kind of just said hold up on that. Now, what they did do is they did take the complaint for the fact that the house wasn't searched. So that aspect is already there.
Okay.
Yeah, why don't we talk to him? And Mr. Perez is very well trained. He used to be an inspector general in the military, so I'm sure he will pay a lot of attention to the details if you can give it to him.
All right, it sounds like my business is finished here this evening.
Well, we thank
Well,
you.
you're gonna refer them to me, so I should just look for a call?
Yes,
Yeah,
Mr.
I'll check on, if you already filed a complaint, I will find out the status of that.
Well, we're gonna need a new complaint based on this, what I'm saying, because we only got so much space, and I've never worked in an office, so, and then when I bring up other things, they kind of saying just hold up on that, so that's what I'm saying, I need a little bit more, support and direction with, getting those complaints completed and that process taking place.
I will follow up with you tomorrow.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank
You're welcome.
you.
Anything else?
No, Ms. Johnson, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for coming in. Jason, if you could just CC me on those emails so I can keep track. Thank you so much. All right, so we are now moving on. We're a little behind schedule, but we will soldier forward. I will give a brief update just on Brady Giglio discipline work groups and our disciplinary charts. Brady Giglio is going to be looking over that group, the 2023 disciplinary notices. tomorrow, and we're still in the process of establishing the rubric. The discipline work group is finished with its first reading of the manual of rules, and we are about halfway through the discipline matrix GPO. We're very happy with that progress. After those two things are completed, we will bring them back for committee. If it's okay, because we were backed up in a lot of the work because of some issues with like records and things like that. We can accelerate if everyone's fine and just have meetings as we need it, in addition to our monthly meeting. On the 14th, Brian, we are meeting with various people that are included in the disciplinary process in the city to go over Ryan's charts that he has worked on. And we will bring that after that point.
Just unplug what you plugged in.
After that point to really go over the charts in depth here in the committee and hopefully publish them. So those are the updates. Now I'm going to go back to a motion that was brought back to committee from the full commission. This was the motion to open review, records request, and notification process regarding OPS complaint 2022-0116, which we have labeled as CPC complaint 2024-01. The reason I can provide some background about about this motion. I think it is very important given the fact that we've taken a lot of care, even with Ms. Johnson's case, which is probably a more narrow kind of case, less complex than OPS complaint 2024-01. That we make sure that we are above board with everything. And my desire is to make sure that although we kind of, we got these two appeals, one during the holidays, one right afterwards, and we're still growing as a commission, that the safest thing for me to do right now, in my opinion, is to make sure that every power that is given to the commission in the charter, that we at this point make sure that those actions are effectuated and empowered by the commission. I do want to note that this morning OPS, this departure, so this OPS complaint involves a departure by the safety director, which was made, believe, on January 15th of this year. The CPRB, the Civilian Police Review Board, addressed this issue today. They did not overrule the safety director, but they, I think, made a resolution to disagree. I believe, my understanding, that means that their process is basically finalized. So now we have now this complaint, even though it does say in the charter that we can take in our discretion at any point in the process. It is obviously preferable because we are increasing discipline, to take it at a more final stage. So I'm making this motion. It's the same motion. There's another reason to make this motion. I have to say it is because there needs to be a recusal process. And Martin, I can send you an email. Are you in the process of telling us how we should recuse ourselves because before we open a review, if any of us have some conflict of interest, we can't even be, in the room voting, talking about this. So Martin, can you give us maybe some background on what you're looking at with the recusal process?
Yeah, so hey everybody, I'm Martin, the attorney for the CPC. Hey everybody that's watching online and here in person. I know sometimes I just creep in on these committee and full commission meetings and don't explain what I'm doing. So yes, I just want to give some background that while you all are working so diligently on reviewing the two complaints that have come in because of these timeline concerns, I, in the background, with Jason and another attorney that is my supervisor at the law department, are working on creating the first draft to the rules committee of our evidentiary hearing manual, right? And this is going to be all of the full nuts and bolts on not only how we hear this case, but how we're going to hear all cases that come underneath the commission. So I understand that, we have our own parallel tracks for timeline, and unfortunately, we don't have one coming before the other. But as I explained in the last, I think it was the special meeting that we had. Yeah, the special meeting that we had, I didn't have a response to you all on how the conflict of interest was going to specifically work. And that has yet to still be decided by the full commission. That's something I'm going to be putting into the rules. The manual, the evidentiary hearing manual is going to go to the rules committee. So, basically my research up to this point will be what I would have seen in terms of what can I advise pursuant to the law. But there may be things beyond that the rules committee and then thus the full commission wants to do on top of that. So I can give you the bare minimums of the things that I've been seeing so far, but none of that has been actually adopted by the full commission yet. So.
And I have a question.
Sure.
I know, Chair Wong, you are discussing this motion, but this motion has not been introduced, right?
So yes, I cannot introduce it. Would you introduce the motion?
No.
So you are refusing to read a motion?
I
am. Mr. Chair, would you introduce this motion?
We don't have a copy of this motion in front of us also.
It's the same motion that was from last time because it was withdrawn, so it is the motion that goes through. And I have to say, I'm increasingly concerned. I understand what Martin's saying, that ideally we would have the process, and still the process could change depending on. But right now, we have an open records request through this case. We don't have the protection of the charter. We have people that have already, commissioners have already said, that they may want to recuse in this case. And this case is still being, so we need, instead of waiting for the rules committee to finalize this, which could be multiple months at this point, because I'm not sure when they're meeting or meeting again. We missed a meeting because of the special meeting. We need to make sure that we're above board with this, because at this point, if Mr. Goodrick, what he's saying is true, is that this is open in some ways, this case, anybody that needs to recuse themselves shall need to recuse themselves, right? Because they need to recuse
To the
themselves
chair.
from, I'm not finished speaking, please. Therefore, because it could contaminate the process.
So,
So wait until I.
oh, okay, I'm sorry, you took a pause. I thought you were.
So is that true, Martin, that if you need to be recused from the case, you should be recused from every step of the process of the case?
Okay, so question on specific recusal. And this is what I've developed so far. All right, so there are instances where recusal is mandatory. And people that need to recuse themselves because of these mandatory reasons should refrain from doing things like voting, deliberating, being at the, they can be at the table, but I would not advise it because, say something negative comes up that they don't agree with and they give a facial expression. They don't have a good poker face. Well, that's part of deliberation. That's part of, communicating what your intentions are. And if you're conflicted out, then that's not great. So if I recommend that people do leave the room when they are technically having a conflict for the commission on a matter. Specifically talking about the mandatory conflicts as I've discovered them up until this point, I would say that obviously if somebody has a direct familial relationship with somebody, that is either the complainant or is the officer in the case. And by direct familial relationship, I'm talking about spouse, child, parent, sibling, grandparent, grandchild. Those, or you have a by blood or marriage familial relationship with somebody that is living in your home, that would also count as a family member. Or if they have a financial relationship with the complainant, or they have a financial relationship with the officer, they should also consider recusing themselves, because that would have to be, we're talking like employee-employer. They have a joint business venture with somebody. That would be a mandatory recusal. Then there are what I am seeing as would be not optional recusals, but self-identified recusals. Everyone that is a commissioner is required to give an unbiased objective view of a matter before this commission, right? And if you feel like, as a commissioner, that your relationship, even though it could be beyond what I've previously described as a familiar relationship or a business relationship, if you feel like you have a situation or you know this person so well, whether they're the complainant or the officer, that you feel like you cannot give an unbiased opinion, and that is clear, then you should also be recusing yourself from this. But short of those three instances, which would be the familial, the business relationship, or I can't do anything, so I can't see a way that I would give an unbiased opinion on this matter. Those are recusal. Now, there are other things that commissioners should be considering, right? So commissioners should be refraining from doing anything beyond doing anything like that would be speaking to the matter that would bias the way that another commissioner would view or themselves would view the case, right? So what we're doing in kind of accountability meeting is beyond this scope, but doing things like speaking publicly on the substantive matters and the merits of a case is something that the commission should refrain from doing, because that is coming and exposing your bias before you view all of the records. Now, obviously, at some point, everyone's going to be speaking to what their opinion is on the subject matter and the merits of a case, but you should only be able to do that if you are reviewing the records along with that and making an unbiased opinion.
So may I go? Are you done?
Yes.
Okay. So the reason why I do not think that this motion should be introduced is, one, this motion was introduced last week. It was withdrawn. Myself and Commissioner,
Return to committee, not withdrawn. As a point of
it was withdrawn within committee.
No,
It
that's-
was
that's
withdrawn.
different. That's different.
Please allow me to finish, which is what
Correction.
you asked. It was withdrawn from committee. It was then brought up again at the full commission special meeting. Then it was to return to committee. Myself and Commissioner Schur gave recommendations on how to make it a stronger motion last week in regards to this exact same motion. Now we have found out new information in regards to how CPRB is going to move. We now have new information in regards to the fact that Attorney Martin is actually working with Interim Executive Director Goodwin to complete an actual evidentiary hearing manual and to suggest and move it to the Rules Committee to vote on an actual recusal process, because at this point, the full commission has not voted on any full recusal process. It is very unfortunate that the Rules Committee has not met yet. But knowing those things and knowing also that Interim Executive Director Goodrick has already done one records request and has said that he can follow up on that records request without this motion, I do not think that we should take a motion or introduce on record with all of those extenuating circumstances and new information. I think we should hold off. That is why I will not read the motion into the record.
Okay, so I want to challenge what you just said, that now we do have, and it was probably to, not to predict the future, to be expected that CPRB, because they had previously said multiple times that they would abide by their 2017 manual, and not when they were asked whether they would overrule the safety director if there was clear and convincing evidence that the decision was incorrect. So I do want to note that because they said that, we actually knew exactly what they would do, because in their 2017 manual, the safety director is the final authority. So their process had already been completed. They could have today made a different decision, but they did. They chose not to overrule. So it is in, and Mr. Tober has appealed to us since February 1st. We are out of compliance in 2.44. In 15 days, Mr. Goodrick and the staff are supposed to make an initial assessment. Initial assessment does not require a full case file, and Mr. Goodrick made a records request, not with my instruction, that I did not feel is specific enough. So again, the case is in our court. Whether we want to cure the problems, that no one's to blame here, okay? No one's to blame here. But we need to do this. We need to go back and redo this to make sure that every process is done. And we cannot wait for the Rules Committee because we've already gone. I'm not finished, please. Thanks. I see both of you. That we've already gone past the starting line. We've already come out of the gate because we've asked for a records request. We have not notified the officers because that was not done. I will not do that without a full commission vote because I will not allow anything, intentional or not, to contaminate and harm this case such that on appeal or like by the unions that could challenge this, they provide an opportunity for this. The only powers to give that we know for certain, because we're navigating legal waters that we don't know because we're not lawyers. Martin may not even know because he's never been in these waters at all. No offense to Martin, anybody, that the only entity that has the power to open an evidentiary hearing, open a review of your case, get records, notify people, is the commission. And the other thing that I want to say is that you must perform the recusals before there is engagement with any of this process for commissioners that need to recuse themselves. This is why I wanted it just to be made at the full commission. I didn't think it was a big deal at that point. All you have to do, open the case. You are saying that the case is already open.
Well, so
but
the chair,
I'm
at this
not
point,
done.
we are.
Just let me speak, please. Then, if it is opened, why not open it correctly? Why not open it correctly according to the charter? And now the ball is in our court. No more can we say that we're waiting for CPRB. We didn't have to wait for them anyways. Just so you know, the frame, I talked to Mr. Sabochandra, Mr. Lucas. This commission was founded for all these great things, for all the grants and everything, but the primary mission was to do police discipline and to do police discipline because elements in the other system were not working, like OPS and CPRB as they should. That is why it is clearly written that we can intervene at any point at our discretion. I'm merely asking, do you want to intervene at this point? Because there's no other options right now for Mr. Tolbert because the CPRB track is done. So if you will not read this motion, then you are directly contravening. You are saying to the citizen, in my opinion, whether intentionally or not, you are in essence saying we will not proceed with this appeal because when are you going to make this motion to cure this?
So just very quickly, again, to the chair. You are still discussing a motion that has yet to be introduced.
So, Mr. Troy,
And while your opinion on my character and you just said about my character.
No, I did
Yeah, you
not.
said intentional,
You're out of
unintentional.
order.
And
You're-
so,
you're-
and let me finish my
you're out of
statement.
order. Out of order. Do
So-
not speak. No, I'm not out
said
of order.
things about my character.
She said I attacked her character. All right, go ahead.
So, that is your opinion on what my character is or my motivation in regards to this case. At this point, this motion has not been introduced. And so, until this motion is introduced, none of this matters.
All right, Mr. Chura, would you introduce this motion?
I think we need to have all the records in front of us that we requested to be thorough, not to be expedient. I haven't even looked at any records yet. I think we need an assessment of it. Then the director could start that without all the evidence, but he'd have to have a little sentence in there. We're still waiting for other WCS, whatever the case might be.
So we are, just want to make sure, you're saying that we need to get the records request before doing any of the recusals or anything else?
I'm not saying, I don't know anything about the recusals. I don't know who's involved or anything like that.
We have to-
I don't know, but however you want to do with that, if it's the rules committee that has to go through it, then we'll have to go through that process. If it takes longer than 15 days, then it takes longer than 15 days, and that's just the way sometimes the investigative process goes. And I'm sure Mr. Director Goodrick would keep, when we requested this, when we requested that, and how the situation is going at such and such dates at certain time limits that we have to observe.
So then, Mr. Goodrick, could you answer our question about the records? Could you give us information
Well,
about the
the
records?
first thing I'd
request?
like to do is, again, my name is brought up, and so I'm going to say it again. I have mentioned to this board several times, and including you, Commissioner Wong, right, that your motion is not in line with the complaint we received. Your mentioning of Sergeant Lance Henderson, which is your doing continuously after I have reminded you that Mr. Tolbert's complaint is not about one officer, and he made that explicitly clear, but yet you have refused twice after hearing that to change the motion. So you've mentioned his name. Let me finish. You've mentioned his name and saying that you're doing this in response to his complaint, but you are not. I'm saying for the record, your motion does not match the complaint that the CPC received.
That's not true.
And he specifically mentioned to me that there
What was
are more, and I've told you to amend it based
What was
on the
the-
complaint that he wants all officers involved in this case to be looked at by
And
us.
my motion contains that because as I read, it says all body cam footage involving Sergeant Lance Henderson, officers who responded to the scene, and officers who were involved in the arrest and transfer of Mr. Antoine.
But you
Tolbert to
asked
Diamond
for
Valley.
only the OPS investigatory report.
No, I didn't.
It
And I
says
have
right
to-
here,
I
full
have-
OPS investigative report related to
And
the
your
disciplinary recommendations
motion-
for
Point
Sergeant
of
Lance
order,
Henderson.
the interim executive director is speaking. You are reading a portion of the motion that no one else
I can
has
read
even
I can read
introduced
anything.
it.
Please.
It's very
Mr.
important that we.
Mr.
We
get-
need to allow
Mr.
him to finish his
I would
statement.
like
and
to
then we
finish.
can
I
move
would
on
like
to
to
do
finish.
business.
I would like to finish as well. I would
Point of
like to.
Point of order.
Point of clarification.
Point of order.
Point of clarification.
Yeah.
Point of inquiry, Martin, can you please clarify how to use point of clarification? It cannot be used to stop someone from
Yeah.
speaking in the middle of their statement. Okay, let him answer the question and stop interrupting everybody.
Thank you,
So,
Chair.
So I'm so sorry. I do have to leave a little bit early from the meeting, but I do want to address the point of order that is being brought up here. If somebody has a point of order, you are welcome to bring it, and then the co-chair, and then state your reason why. The chair of the committee will rule on that point of order. If the person or anyone disagrees with that ruling of the point of order, they are allowed to appeal. There can be a debate on the appeal, and then there's a vote by the members that are in the committee meeting to overrule or to uphold the chair's decision. So I would recommend that if you all go through that process in order to make that happen. To say that a point of clarification in Robert's rules, I believe, does not exist. If you do not agree or you want to clarify something, you have to wait until the person that has been acknowledged to speak finishes, and then you go into acknowledging who is the next person to speak, and then you can speak in rebuttal to it. So just take your time with this, guys. I know this is a very sensitive topic. And we're going to work through it, and I have faith in you guys. But let me know if you need anything else. But I apologize. I got to run a little bit early. But thank you, guys.
Martin, thank you. Mr. Goodrich.
So again, I want to reiterate, we don't have a legal opinion to support that this motion is necessary. So I keep hearing that we're in violation of this and we're in violation of that. There is no legal opinion. It is just a person's opinion at this point. The commission does not have a written legal opinion that we are violating the charter. I keep hearing that said out loud, and I want the community to know that is just a person's opinion. It is not the official legal opinion of anybody that we have sought an opinion on that we are violating the charter in any way by not doing this motion. As I mentioned before, this investigation is open. So and to Martin's point, there's no need for the committee to talk about it until it is before the committee. So just like OPS, the board doesn't interfere when complaints come into OPS. We're going to use them as an example because it's a good operational example. They wait until the work is done by the staff and it is presented to them. They don't motion to open every single case that is written before them. They don't do it. And we are no different than they are in that regard. They don't require a motion to do it. They don't require a motion every time they need to make a notification, any of those things. So the idea that is necessary can be shown not to be true operationally in the way that our sister board does it, CPRB. They do not motion open every single complaint that comes before them. This complaint the records are in process. We have asked for those records. The co-chairs have asked me to narrow that request and make sure that we have the everything we need and not too much. So that point has been heard. We are also going to send those notifications automatically. We asked you, Commissioner Wong, if you wanted to be a part of that, and you said you did not wish to make those notifications for your own reasons, and that is fine. But we will go ahead and do that because the point has been made that the notification should go out. So we just saw an example of how our process is supposed to work. We just did the Johnson case without any problems. It was delivered to everybody. They had a chance to review the evidence. There was a discussion, and that process went forward without any motion or need to make anything beyond what we've already done. We are working to refine the process, and that will go before rules. So
All right, so
Thank
that
you
is my
so
statement.
much, interim executive director.
You're
So
out
at
of
this
order.
point,
You are, I'm not,
no
I
one
would like
has,
to.
we did not, this motion has not been
I'm
read, and so
responding,
we
you're
should
not the
move
chair of
to
the
new
committee,
business.
you have
I'm
not
not,
been
but we need to-
recognized, you've
we
not been
only have
recognized
10
to
minutes
speak.
left
You are
in
out
this
of
meeting.
order, we can extend the meeting, you are
Chair.
out of order, but you
Chair,
you
we
have
have
not been
10 minutes
recognized to
left.
speak.
We have
You have
10
not been
minutes
recognized
left.
to speak,
I
I hear
understand
you.
that, but we also
So
need
you
to
are
move
out
on
of
to new
order.
business.
If you continue to be out of order, you continue to be out of
Mhm.
order, I want to correct, we will move on, can we extend for 20 minutes? If not, I'm just going to respond to Mr. Goodrick's, we're not gonna finish out this agenda, we're gonna schedule another meeting, and I need to respond to Mr. Goodrick's points that were inaccurate. Yes, I do. No, I'm not gonna send an email because he has now stated on record that Mr. Tolbert, unless you had a different conversation with him that I've not listened to, let me finish, please. It was clear from Mr. Tolbert's printed appeal to us that the focus was Sergeant Lance Henderson. Also, he has stated that on record in CPRB. And if he had been here to give public comment, I imagine unless he has changed his mind, that we also had a secondary indirect appeal from another community member that said the same thing, was Lance Henderson. It is printed. Would you like to read those emails? Am I reading something else? It says Sergeant Lance Henderson. Now, and so the other issue that you have is that I do want to note CPRB is different from us. They have an investigative arm that is separate from them called OPS. We do not have that. We are not separate.
Staff is staff.
So you're now saying that staff is going to act as our investigatory arm and do the assessments of the case. That doesn't seem right to me because we have no investigatory powers. We are supposed to only review the documents. We're not relitigating this. If there is an investigation, we would be sending it back to OPS to investigate. Is that correct?
You have already made a rule. You were the chair of rules when you made the process. We are following the process under the rules.
And you're out of alignment with that process by 15 days.
We already explained this. We've had this.
No, this is really, you are giving inaccurate statements on record. I'm correcting the record. We're not going to argue any more about this. The only reason I do not want to send out the notifications that I wrote myself, because I noticed that there was notifications, and that was an error of the Rules Committee. We didn't read 115.4. You didn't do that, right? I found that. You didn't do any notification of the officers to even I do not think that this committee or this commission should be asking for records, even looking to a case. The moment an appeal comes to us, you need to notify all parties involved of your actions. That is just common sense. I would think that Mr. Chur would probably agree. You need to notify all officers. Have you notified Sergeant Henderson? Have you notified the unions? Have you notified Black Shield? All those entities that would be interested. Have you even notified Mr. Tolbert? Because quite frankly, you didn't say anything to him until I asked you to talk to him 15 days later. So that is not acceptable, Mr. Goodrick. I would like you to now tell me, when will you be giving me your initial assessment of the case? Are you going to be waiting for the case file to do that?
The co-chairs are going to answer that question.
To the chair. He will complete that assessment when he gets the records.
Why is that? Because it's not an evidentiary.
Okay,
I wrote the rule.
Can you not interrupt me? Because I really
It
don't.
is
I
not.
don't talk that often. I don't. You should go look at the videos and see who talks after the meeting.
You're not on the record very often.
So
yes.
my thing. So what I'm saying is, because when I talk, it matters. I think I listen to people. So what I want to say to you is, listen. It's okay to disagree with people. It is okay if you have an opinion. and other people have a different opinion. But just because people have a different opinion, it doesn't mean they're necessarily wrong. Sometimes people just see things differently, or they want to move about a process differently. What I want to say is, a lot of this, we're wasting too much time on this committee because we have a lot of work to do, not just this committee, but the commission in general. So look, we're wasting time on, October was here at our last meeting, and if there was anything that Jason said that was inaccurate, when it go, please don't interrupt. If there was anything that Jason said was inaccurate, he was sitting in the office, in the audience, and he could have interjected. He approved, and without resisting, if Jason had said anything incorrect, he could have stated it. He made it clear that he wanted a thorough investigation. He wanted us to thoroughly look at the records. This is his case, this is his life, and we should listen to the person that we're representing. Another waste of time, recusals. We were trained on recusals first on 2/15/23. It started at 6:11 p.m. And so we know the guidelines under which we have to recuse ourselves. You are, to the chair, what you're doing, you're trying to create another category that is confusing for people who have not been trained on what recusals are. It is not if I know somebody. It is not if, okay, but that's what's being implied because we do not, unless a commissioner is related to him in a particular type of way, unless a commissioner has some type of business relationship with him, unless a commissioner is going to benefit financially from their relationship with Mr. Tober. Those are the conditions. What we were told, though, is to err on the side of caution. If you feel like there's a conflict, what we were told a year ago was to recuse yourself. But we have been through this process. And might I add that you were one of the commissioners who refused to actually go through the refusal process for the grants. So don't interrupt me. You can correct me if I'm wrong. So what I'm saying is you did not do that process until we were about to vote on the grants pretty much. So what I'm saying is we've gone through this as a commission of understanding the recusal process. And the last thing I want to say, as Mark mentioned in our last meeting, you came up with the list of who was going to be contacted. And when you were asked how you came up with that list, you did not provide a clear answer. So what I want to remind you is that this is a commission of 13 people. This is not a commission of one person. And if you don't agree with people, that is okay. You have every right to disagree. You have every right to voice your disagreement. You have every right to vote against people. But what we need to stop doing is attaching presumptions and accusations because someone disagrees with us. Like I don't think that's what we should be doing. Oftentimes I agree with you. Sometimes I don't agree with you. But I don't think you're like a wicked person because of it. I think we really have to stop doing that.
Thank you. So I'd like to respond that the reason I know what the recusal process is. I'm well aware of it. I read the code for the conflicts of interest. But I didn't not recuse myself through that process. I didn't want to have a private meeting with the chief ethics officer. I felt that we could have done that in public in a transparent manner. I also didn't recuse myself from the grants because I had not voted in any way for the rubric or any process of the grant. And this, I fear, is what we are doing right now with a much more sensitive process, which is officer-related discipline. And to answer your other question about where I got that list from, well, that list are the people that are notified in the disciplinary hearings. You have not engaged with those documents anyways, not to any fault of your own, but because we've been denied some of this. But we've read many of these documents in the Brady Galeo work group, and if we want to add to that list, we can do that. So we are going to. I'm sorry if there's any public comment. Is there any public comment? No.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, and we will just
without a vote.
We will extend for 5 minutes. You can't.
You can't do that without a majority vote.
Well, are we going to not have public comment, Mr. Chura?
We have had one public comment. We end in 53
We are-
seconds.
Okay.
We have already
thank you.
decided we are not extending this meeting. You do
Thank
not have
you.
to be the chair. According to Robert Rules of Order,
Thank
a
you.
simple majority vote
Simple.
can adjourn
Well,
can adjourn a meeting,
well, you
and once the time is actually on the
you
agenda.
can,
according to
I
Robert
tried
Rules
to
of
extend
Order.
the meeting 10 minutes ago. We will just adjourn the meeting and reschedule for we will have a special meeting and we can have a quorum of 2 if you are not able to make it, Ms. Garrett Ferguson. Thank you, we're adjourned.
Okay, I'll stop.
What's on my schedule for tomorrow?